Since this is mainly for the newer operators,
Hmm.
now that I think about it, let's just start at the beginning, go over a super basic
Sure.
overview of
Yeah.
how to create a clip, how to change the angle of a clip, how to get that clip into a playlist, and then how to
Hmm.
change the angle within the playlist after the fact.
Yeah. Deal. I'm gonna sit down for all that. The two, all right, a little bit smaller, but I think still helpful. All right. Yeah, so from the beginning, we don't have a ton of time here at the end of the day, but I'll just kind of speed run. The beauty is it's recorded, so you can always kind of go back. My
Yep.
goal will be to kind of run through everything. Yes, it'll be quick, but at least those ops that already know it are like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And if nothing else, I'll show you where everything lives. Which again, a lot of times for operators, it's just nice to see it once, and then it's like, okay, my theory when training is like if I don't show you, you just might not know it's there, but you can't always go back and check notes or check recordings and things like that to go back and find it. But if I don't tell you, it might just live buried in the menu forever and ever. So I will go fast, but with that said, I will try to cover it kind of as many things as I can in the next little bit.
Cool.
All right. So like I said, on the left side is our multi-viewer, right side is our clip view. The multi-view is comprised of the 6 inputs across the top. So for your DC ones, again, they're standalone servers. So there's two ways you could configure it. It can be configured as 4x4 or 6x2 would be the most common. I don't see a ton of value for you guys doing 4 outputs unless you're feeding some other kind of board or, something crazy. I think for the most part, you guys will be 6 in across the top, 2 outputs down there across the bottom. To select the outputs, you use the A and B on the panel. So A selects the first one, B selects the second one. If you want to select them both, you press D. I always pretend D stands for dual. If you want dual outputs, just press D for both of those guys there. As we covered before, rewinding and fast forwarding is done on the jog wheel. And then for the most part, you'll spend a ton of time hammering return record. So you'll press that button a million times, and then that will always kick you back out live. When that button is red, you are live. When it is green, it's still recording. So everyone gets a little nervous on like, how will I know if it's not recording? I will show you right now. This is how you know it's not recording. Someone went here into records, they hit stop. It's totally fine. We should do this at the end of the show. And it'll tell you, I am not recording. Input's not capturing. Everyone always asks, well, how do I know if it's recording? My answer, you'll know if it's not. I promise. It will tell you. The reason I say that again is because that return record button being red has no bearing on whether we're recorded or not. It just means I'm live. What's coming into my inputs matches my outputs. So when I'm coming in for a show, a few things that I do when I start. You come in, if it's not already recording, I'll come down to records and I'll hit start records. Now, you guys being on campus, I see it go multiple ways. I mean, BYU has a truck and their Dreamcatchers are in there and they stay on all year and they never turn the truck on or off. It's just always on. So it functions almost more like a room. There's a lot of places that will haul the trucks all over campus, turn them on, turn them off. When you're doing that, when you turn it on, the Dreamcatcher will automatically start recording. So if it's something where you're turning it on day of show, putting power to the truck, yeah, for the most part, your Dreamcatchers will be recording when you start, and then when you take power out of the truck or you shut them off. And I'll go through that. Remind me, Ben, if I forget to go through just kind of on and off since you guys are in a mobile unit. Not super difficult, just worth covering. But with that being said, they'll usually be started already, I would think, for the ops. And if they want to stop them, just if you're going to have it on overnight or something like that, come in here at the end of your show, hit stop records, and they will flash like that and just say input not capturing. Okay, inputs across the top, outputs that down there across the bottom. They're always recording as long as you don't see the input not capturing, and they're recording in a loop. That loop is basically going around and around. This is very different than how 3Play does it, so it's worth going over. 3Play, they partition like a part of their project for a show. And when you get to the end of it, you're just kind of done. And you can't really work on clips unless you're recording. And then I don't know as well as most of your ops probably do exactly how it works. But people that are learning Dreamcatcher from 3Play do tell me it's a big difference. In that the Dreamcatcher has this amount of record time remaining at the bottom. 8 hours and 18 minutes. So from when you gave Dreamcatcher power and fed the first input into it, it started recording, and it goes around in a circle on all 6 inputs for 8 hours and 18 minutes. So if I grab this little record train down here, this little status menu, I would see, now there's some holes in it just from probably stopping the records or having no input, which is totally fine. But if with these inputs going into it, if you left it on for 8 hours, it would record all the way to the end of that 8 hours. When it gets to the end, it's like a security tape or a video loop. It just starts back in the beginning, starts recording back over itself. It'll just do that. It'll do that to the end of time. If you left it on for years, we have customers that do that. It will just kind of always go over and over itself. That's fine. There's really no harm or foul in that. It won't have any bearing on the record space. The record space starts to dwindle as we make clips. So those clips are just chunks out of that 8 hours and 18 minutes. So if we make a 1 hour long clip with 6 angles, we go from 8:18 to 7:18. If we make another, say, 15-minute clip, now we're down to 7 hours and 3 minutes, right? So those clips are basically just chunks out of this bigger record time remaining there. I always try to keep it longer than your longest event. So if you're doing a football game, I would like that number to be above 4, probably 3.5 to 4. Again, being in a mobile unit where you're using it for a single event at a time, I don't think that's going to be a major issue. It more so is when you stack up where you're doing 6 or 7 different events kind of all in a row, all in the same system, sharing all that stuff. For us, for the most part, you'll have a good sense of like where your clips are, what page they live on, and things like that. So if you want to delete things, you can. With that said, kind of while we're on the topic of just keeping them clean, keeping things in good working order, that record time remaining being longer than your show is important. And your operators will probably gravitate towards putting things on specific pages. It's how we did it in EVS. It's how we'll, for the most part, do it in Dreamcatcher World. These are nice. You can just double click them and rename them. So if you just want to call this one like UTED versus, I don't know, UTSA or something like that, right? This could be that game. And you just work from here and you don't really have to think about what page you're on or anything like that. And then when it comes time to start to go through and blow things out, well, you know exactly kind of where you are. One person kind of has to be in charge of it because they're the one that knows when the clips were made, when they can be deleted. Operators don't always have the best sense of can we delete this or can we not? So that does usually fall back on kind of a full-time staff thing. I would just encourage you to very simply come up with a rhythm. And I don't really care what the rhythm is. The thing I would do, set a reminder on your Outlook or something like that, where it's just like once a month you go in, blow it out. Maybe you'll keep your slates and your internal storage and things like that. But just having a nice clean slate once a month or however long, you'll find the rhythm. For some people, it's like once a week, and they have to do it once a week or they'll run out of space. For some people, they'll do it, once a semester, and that's okay for them too. So you'll find your rhythm, but someone does need to kind of take some ownership in like what clips do we keep and what do we not. Almost everyone loves to keep their pages and their slates and all that kind of stuff over here on page 10. So slates, scenics, all that. That's totally fine. If you do have a bunch of clips, to delete them, it's fairly simple. There's 2 ways to kind of go through and clean this thing up. You can just grab the clips like this, hit shift on these clips, hit delete, and then enter, and that will delete all those clips, and it'll delete every copy of that clip, and they're just gone. They don't exist in your playlist anymore. It will warn you. It'll say this is in a playlist. If you want to delete it, you'll say yeah. That's one way to do it. And then kind of the nuclear option, and it's not the worst option in the world. Again, being a standalone box, you kind of know where things are. You know how to import stuff off of your internal storage. Settings and diagnostics here. You can go to the engineering settings, and then you'll see a tab that says clear all data. So you can go down to this one right here, clear all data, and then you'll clear DC1 data and record trains, which is marks, playlists, and clips. So that's like wipe it totally clean as if it just came out of the box. And it's good for the server, good for the drives. I mean, it's not something you have to do once a week, once a month, every few months even. But once a year, it's not the worst idea to just kind of start fresh. If you're ever having like major issues where you're not being able to get it to record or capture or anything like that, and you can, like, you've caught it hours before your show or days before your show, that's the best thing because it'll kick that drive, format the drive altogether, and you'll start fresh. So
Okay.
it doesn't happen often, but if again, you can part with the data on there, it's a 99% brings it back every time, I will say.
While we're on the topic of engineering stuff,
Yeah.
you know, we have these are all hooked up to a router. They have access to pretty much any signal in the truck. Yeah. 3Play doesn't like it when I change routing while it's recording. Does Dreamcatcher care very much?
Not at all. No.
Okay.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, route whatever, whenever. As long as even if it's a wrong signal type, it'll just flash at you and tell you. This is kind of a nice little newer feature. I believe it's in this version here. You should be able to go into the status down there. And there's an SDI ports tab. This SDI ports tab will tell you not only what it's expecting, but also what it's getting. So here's the detected. So if you do accidentally route 1080p, and this was a common thing, is somebody's like, we can't get input 7 to start for whatever reason.
Yeah.
The truck, when I say the truck, the network is here and they're sending us stuff and we can't get it. Well, through a frame sync or something like that. But yeah, that'll tell you that there. And then also you'll see your reference down there at the bottom as well.
Cool. And then another sidebar, you'll notice we don't have time code going in. Audio inputs, do they have to be embedded on the SDI feeds?
They do.
Okay. So no Dante. That would make me happy. Okay.
Yeah, no, I wish it would make me happy too, because I could say yes. What I would encourage you to do, Ben, is if you do some sort, if you can get embedded audio into one of the inputs, doesn't have to be all, because that gets very expensive very quickly. You can come down to the audio shuffler here, and you can kind of slave everything or do your own mix inside the Dreamcatcher. So even if it's just a single throwdown Dante to embedded audio mixer, you can just throw everything on and say input 1, make it the audio master, and now everything is slaved across that card.
Okay. Yeah, so typically we'll have embedded program coming in, but then also, like for basketball, we're building a custom NAT one that has the hoop mics in it and stuff. So
cool. Yeah. Sounds awesome. Yeah, no, it is embedded. What kind of router do you guys have? Is it Ultrix?
Router? Yeah, unfortunately we're using I don't mind them, the Blackmagic 40x40. We have a 40x40 in here for broadcast, and then 20x20 is just managing the replay stuff. I love it. Downside is it can't individually manage the audio signals like the Ultrix can.
Sure.
I loved that when I was at Idaho because I could just peel the audio off of anything and put it into the replay. So
it is it's a question I get asked more and more now with these standalone DC1s, because before the price point was at a place where you pretty much had to have the router first and then the Dreamcatcher next. Now that they're starting to show up where we can afford them, which is great, and that's the goal. But we do get a lot more questions about things like NDI and IP audio, for lack of a better term, AES-67, things like that. So great question.
I'll probably just set up one embedder and just do a custom bus off the mixer that we can send whatever we need to.
There you go. Nice, good call. Okay. Let's see, where were we? We were talking record space, clipping. So the clips will go down there. They will eat into the record train as you make the clips. And then again, keep them nice and tidy as you go. You can select a whole, what I like to do is, again, tell my ops like, all right, page 10 is your like don't delete or whatever you like to call it. I promise I won't touch that, but once every 2 weeks, I am going to go through and I'm going to delete everything that's not on that page. So if you want it, move it over there. And that seems to be kind of a good way of, it's a nice balance of like, it gives them the autonomy to like hold on to some stuff and not have to re-import, export every show. But it also makes it nice because I can come down here, click on this multi-page, and then it'll ask me, it'll say select all pages, and I'll do, oops. Come on back. There you go. And I'll say select all pages, and then I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everything but 10 basically. It'll select everything. I'll hit accept, and then I can hit delete, and it goes, you want to delete? And in theory, it'll say delete 380 clips, and you're like, yeah, see ya. And then they go bye bye. But everything on that page 10 is safe, so you're good. That's how I like to do it. Keep things nice and clear. The clips themselves, as you're making clips, again, as we learned together, we'll clip all 6 angles on DC1. So just always clipping all the time. Let me make a couple here just for our examples. You can press enter. I think this is a new feature. You can double click on stuff, which is nice. So if you have an in and out set, you can just double click an empty slot and it'll add the clip. Another nice way to do it. Enter onto an empty space with an in out set makes a clip. And then, of course, the clip buttons and the FTs. So a million ways to do it.
Real quick, because this tripped me up when I was configuring the broken system that we originally got. Difference between program preview and program that changes how you clip stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it changes how all the buttons work, in fact. So
I just need to know how to switch it back to what it's supposed to be.
Easiest way to do it, I think it's in this menu, or I'll show you on the panel. Settings, operational, system, and then this mode right here, multi-program versus program preview. The difference is multi-program, almost how all of North America works. A selects the first channel, B selects the second channel, D selects both. That's how most of us work, and we work in both outputs, and you ask me where the thing is, and I say it's an X, and you go, great, you punch X. In other parts of the world, they'll use program preview, and so everything comes out of what they call program. So I will feed all of my outputs out of, say, red, and then if I want to put a second look in there, I actually physically take that into red. If I want to change the angle or something like that, it's on me as the replay op to make those switches. Whereas in North America, we mostly use multi-program, and the TD is the one flipping between red and blue, for example. The key thing to look for if it's in a weird mode is if you ever see yellow on any of the A, B, C, or D buttons, it's probably in probably in program preview mode. They'll always be green in multi-program for the most part. A couple exceptions, but like if you're in a playlist, they might be a different color, but they have different functions. But if you're ever like just live on an output and the A, B, C, D buttons are selecting cameras instead of the outputs, that's your key tell. So settings, operational, system, and then flip it back to multi-program here. All right, so these are your clips themselves. In, out, make a clip a billion different ways. Once you've made the clip, in the top left, you'll see it's PBS, page, bank, and slot that we talked about before. 10 pages, 10 banks, and 10 slots. If you guys use Expression or Chiron or whatever, they all have take IDs. This would be similar to a Dreamcatcher's take ID. G to go to it brings up this menu here. And if you want 121, you can simply type 121. It flips you to that clip. We'll use it for intros, like if you have old school 80s that are like, it has to be in my 337. You're like, okay, great, whatever. We don't really function that way quite as much anymore. For the most part, especially in Dreamcatcher world, you can just clip things and you can clip things, name them, and then you can search for them. So if I just look for clip, like you'll see all this stuff in here. So for the most part, we search for stuff now. To do that, you'll want to give everything unique names. R to rename it. You can go over here. We can say UTAP. Stuff like that, right? So you have all these clips that are kind of now named quickly, and then if I want to search for all the bin clips, easily just come over there. There's all your stuff. That's how we operate for the most part these days. Again, we talked about tags. T was for tag, and it's just additional stuff. So here's a good example. Brandon is from Texas. Ben lives in Texas. Where are you from?
Minnesota.
Oh, there you go. All right. Culture shock.
A little bit.
Yeah, not the Midwest. Not just Texas, West Texas too.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're both now in Texas. So if I go through and I search for anything in Texas, you'll find both of us, which is good. So again, kind of attribute that to the sports analogy, but it's that same idea that we're both kind of doing one thing, but we can always search for that, build our package, and go from there. Escape always takes me back. My favorite shortcut, my absolute favorite, is the / on the keyboard. So if I tap / it brings me up to this button, which is the search button. So from anywhere, if I want to search for something, I just have my hands on the keyboard and I just tap the / or that / and then I can search for anything I want, which is really nice because I do most of my show. I do almost all of my live replay with this guy here. So hands are here, rewinding. If I want to roll it, I roll it. But then once I get to building, clipping, tagging, blah, 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 I try not to touch the mouse too much, and I'll try to do as much of it as I can from this guy here. I have to keep requesting sessions. I think it's mad I have 2 of them open, but it's all good. No worries. Okay, those are your clips themselves. Once you have your clips, you'll see the thumbnail, self-explanatory, easy. The number to the right of that is the clip's duration, 3 seconds, 25 frames. My screen share stopped. I'm going to reshare. Just so you'll have it for the recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Let me know if it happens again. Sometimes my computer will do that.
Okay.
Okay, cool. A for angles shows you all the different angles of your playlist. Of your clip itself. And then you can do a bunch of stuff. You'll see a bunch of little shortcuts at the bottom. Those are for playlists. And we'll cover the playlist here in just a second. So these are the actual angles. If you want to call something up, A for angles, and then enter on the keyboard to call it up into your output. This thing's harder for me to show remotely, but going left and right, if you're looking down at the panel, you'll see the panel is following my little cursor. Again,
yeah.
I like to think of the analogy like I'm playing a video game. This little guy is the character, this little blue one, and then what's showing on my panel is, I don't know, somebody said, oh, that's like your inventory. That's kind of smart. But as you're going left, right, up, and down, it's showing you inside of the clip. So if this has 6 angles, as I go left and right, it shows me all 6 angles of that clip. Now these are mostly the same, but if I say, I don't know, change something like this, you see little changes in there, and it shows you what those 6 angles are. Every clip has a primary clip. So the primary clip is the angle you were looking at when you clipped it off. That becomes the primary. Primary is important because when I add it to a playlist, that's the first angle that it will add. It's also important because when I go to export, that is the one that will export. And then when I see its thumbnail, it'll be the thumbnail, obviously, that it's showing me. So that's your primary clip. Let me reshare. Okay.
So real quick before we continue.
Yeah.
So you have Brandon on A right now.
Yes.
How did you get Brandon to A?
Oh, how do I do it?
Yep.
A bunch of ways. My favorite way, if I'm operating, is you see the touchscreen in front of you, Ben?
Yep.
Just tap on. So like Brandon's on A now. I want to put Ben on A. Now just tap any of those icons. They are touchscreen, the little thumbnails there. So if you touch those, the reason I like to do it from there is because it gives you access to kind of all 6 of your different angles, which is really nice when you do it. Of course, I can just double click the clip and that'll load it up if my A is selected. So that's an easy way to do it. You can press enter on the clip with your keyboard. And then old school, if you want to use the F keys to dial them in, F1 will bring up the first one, F2 brings up the second one. But I like to, again, drive like this and then use those thumbnails in front of me because it allows me to pick exactly which one I want. If I double tap it a few times, it'll cue it up to the beginning, start it up, and then when you get ready to hit play, your hand's already kind of over on the panel. You just tap that play button. You're good to go.
Cool.
Yep, good question. Okay, those are the clips themselves. The clips are the building blocks of kind of what become playlists. Playlists live on the right side near our bins of our clip view. So this was the clip view over here on the right side. And then on the very far right is our playlist. And they live down here. P is the shortcut to get to these, or you can click on the playlist icon down here. That lid is right there. It says no playlist selected, which is fine. I mean, we can go back and make a playlist. There are 10 playlists per page. And so as you change pages, it'll change what playlist you're on. Let me check one little setting here. Playlists. Okay. One thing I like to turn off is that first option there, which is sync playlist with page. So with this on, what it's doing, and I don't love this, when I change pages, it's changing the playlist page. I usually don't like that. In fact, I don't know anyone that does like it. So I come in here, settings, I just turn this off, which now means that no matter what page I'm looking at for my clips, my playlist pages stay the same. So if I have some stuff over here on the playlist page is just like my first playlist. No matter what I'm doing over here, what page I'm looking at or anything, it just stays the same, which is good, what we want. It was R to rename a playlist, just like it is to rename a clip. And then if you want to go into it, I'll click on it, and then it'll say empty playlist, press Alt-Enter to add clips. Cool. Alt-Enter, adds the clips to the playlist. All good. That's one way to do it. Keyboard shortcut, Alt-Enter on the keyboard will add them to the end of the current playlist. On the panel, if you have a clip pulled up in output and you press Enter, which is the very far right gray button, how we used to do it on EVS, adds a clip to a playlist. And then, of course, everybody's favorite, fan fave for sure, grab a clip, pick it up, and just drag it in. All of those work. The way that I build my playlist is real messy and real fast. Kind of like I used to write papers in college. It's just kind of like, here's all the stuff. Then I go through and I try to refine it. So everyone has different styles. Some are very good editors and they go really slow and they have an idea in their head. I'm old school, like sports broadcast, like let's sell some packages, get on the air and move on to the next one. Let's tell the story of what's going on. So with that said, I'll usually add things fairly quickly, and I'm more prone personally to deleting things after I've added them than being really meticulous about adding them slowly. So I'll make playlists, and again, I try to keep my hands on the keyboard as much as I can. It makes DC1 training easier too. But I can tab back and forth, and when I tab, you see that little orange box and how it's jumping between left and right. So when I'm over here, my character is moving around this screen, and when I hit tab, I'm moving around this screen. So if I'm building a playlist and I want to make, say, a new playlist, enter, rename it, second playlist, enter again to go into the playlist. It flips me back over here, which is great. Now I want to add a couple things to it. I'll add Ben, Alt-Enter. I'll add Brandon, Alt-Enter. UTEP, Alt-Enter. If I want to change, again, and I build it like this. So I kind of build out my playlist, the bones of what it is, right? So if this is sacks or touchdowns or whatever, strikeouts in baseball, I'll just kind of go through and I'll build all that stuff out first. Then I will go through and I will change which angles I might want to be looking at. So for example, there's nothing on this angle. It's not very good. I can press A just like I do on the playlist itself or on the clip itself, and I can see all of its different angles. And when I'm ready to swap it out, I just go over here to pick the angle I like. And if you notice at the bottom, remember those shortcuts we were talking about earlier, these now apply. D would swap the angles out. I always think D for different. Want a different angle? D swaps it out. And now this will be the angle that I'm looking at here on this clip. All right. So that is my playlist. I've put in the clips. I've changed it to all the angles I want. And then what I do next is a little bit harder to do on the keyboard, which is why I do all that first. And then I go back to the panel and I kind of use that jog wheel and I'll go through and I'll trim up all my ins and outs. So to trim the ins and outs, you go forward in time. And if you want to do it first, Benjamin, you can. Just go forward, press your in button, which is the middlemost button on that RCP panel, and then that will shorten the end point. So if you're editing, like say you're on Premiere, think about it like grabbing the front handle and just dragging it forward. Same thing on the end. When you get to the end point, you hit out, and that will kind of collapse and shrink to your new out point there.
So if I want to add to the end of the clip or the beginning of the clip, how do we do that?
Yeah, great question. It's the same process, but now instead of pressing in and out, you're going to hit clear in or clear out. And clear is the gray button that's in the top right by enter. So you'll hit clear, go for it, and you'll see this menu here. And when you do that, if you want to clear, say, your out point, you'll just tap the out button one time. So now when you scroll, you take your wheel and you scroll to the out point, you see it goes yellow.
Yeah.
And this yellow is all extra stuff you can go back and add. So say you want to, you wanted to set your new out point, you hit out again.
Okay. And that works the same, so I can go clear in and then keep backing it up and set a new endpoint? Okay, cool.
That's it. Yeah, we call that our guard band. So guard band is the extra part of a clip, whether that be artificially, where you shortened it, or every time we make a clip, even if it's a 3-second clip, we usually will still keep guard band on the front and on the back side.
Okay.
And that's set here inside of the settings. So when you guys are doing a show or setting up your show, important to know, settings, clips, and then you'll have a default clip guard band size. So what that means is, again, if this clip is 3 seconds, there's 5 seconds on the front and 5 seconds on the end. If you make an hour-long clip, same thing, 5 seconds on the front, 5 seconds on the end. But it's just extra guard band that I might want to use when I'm editing or doing a show later.
Okay. Yeah, so just for people listening then, as opposed to 3 plays, holding shift and scrubbing the wheel in order to move your in and out point, you're actually deleting it and creating a new one.
Bingo. Yep. No, right on. Kind of in tandem with that, other advanced stuff you might want to do within your playlist is, say you want to split the clip down the middle, right? Like I always try to make the analogy when editing a playlist in the Dreamcatcher. It's very, very similar to editing a timeline in Premiere. Ours go vertically in the tape world. In the film and nonlinear editing world, they go left to right. But it is very much the same thing. We use the stretch tool, which we kind of learned how to trim the ins and outs. Now is the razor tool, which just cuts the clip kind of down the middle so that I can change something about it, whether that be, again, its length, maybe its angle in a sports scenario. Both of those things work. So if you want to go forward in time, to about halfway through this clip, for example, and you'd like to split it, you'll hit Shift, which is the top left gray button, and you'll hold the endpoint, and you'll hold it until you see that clip split down the middle. So that's perfect. You now see 2 clips called Brandon, and they're both about 1 second or 2 seconds long. So if you wanted to, say, change the speed of that clip in the playlist, or you wanted to change the angle, now you can go through and swap out that angle. So if it's a basketball play like a steal, you might want them to jump back and forth, ins and outs, so that they can, without having to re-edit all of that stuff, you can do it just like that.
Note, I just noticed.
Yeah.
Transition default state set to cut when I split that clip.
When you split the clip, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because it is probably hard cutting, right? Like if the steal example where like I steal on one end of the court and then I pass it and I want to flip to the next, you're not mixing between that. Usually in our tape psyche, mixing means going from one point in time to another. So like a play and then another play and then another play. Usually if I'm cutting, I am cutting in real time. So similar to how you cut on a switcher, we will make that same thought. Now it's worth going through where these live so that you can set them for later. They are currently set up to be dissolves or mixes with 8 frames, but those can be changed. Settings, operational, playlists, and you can set what those defaults are. So default is a mix, and then the transition is 8 frames, which probably pretty good. 8 to 12 is where I like to live.
Yeah, that's I love that because 3 plays default is cut and you can't change it. Oh. So you have to go through and change every single clip to fade. It's so annoying.
Hate that.
But
maybe for a melt, you'd want to change all of them all at the same time. You can do that all of the buttons, they were previously very much limited to being on the panel. You had to do them on the panel. Nowadays, we've put them into the actual system. So if you ever see this too, so like say you're playing it out, and you ever see this orange, yellowish bar that says browsing disabled, it's just kind of trying to save you from like, hey, you're on the air, like make sure you don't jump. But if you just hit the if you take the jog wheel and just kind of tap it one way or the other so that it gets into a state where it's like being edited, now you can go through and click on anything.
Okay.
When I'm using my keyboard, I'll use the period and the comma, the arrow buttons that go like this, and that'll do the same thing. So it'll flip you back into the ability to make that change.
Cool.
Now, once you're there, you can click edit up here, and here's all of that stuff. So I recommend the panel to be a faster operator, but all this stuff does live here. So if you want to change your effects, you can click on that and it'll tell you how to change it from a cut to a mix, and then the durations and all that. All of these though live, they also live on the actual RCP itself. So you'll see when you're in the playlist, the A, B, C, D buttons do something very specific. So when you call up the playlist, assemble your playlist, cut them up, or assemble the playlist, change the angles you want, cut them all up, and then when you're ready to play it back, you'll hit that top button, loop playlist 3 times. And you'll kind of jam it 1, 2, 3 times. When you do that, it calls you up to the top of the playlist, and those 4 buttons, A, B, C, and D, no longer select your outputs. They say and you can go ahead and do it, Ben. There you go. 3 times at least, and then it'll say previous, next, skip, and edit. So these are for play out. So basically, when you're ready to play back your playlist and the producer or director tells you to push, you hit that B button. That B button is next, and it takes you to the next clip in the playlist.
Okay.
If you take the jog wheel and you turn it like we did before to get you back into edit mode, and it'll look like this. Now those buttons do something different, and that's how you'll change your speed. You'll change your effect duration. You'll delete clips. I don't have them in front of me, but just from a few years of doing it, you change your audio swaps and all that kind of stuff is done from this menu. So keeping in mind A, B, C, and D are different buttons based on the mode you're in. When you're outside of everything, just doing replays, select your first output, your second output. When you're in edit mode on your playlist, is how you change your speed and your effect and your transitions, all that. And then when you're playing out your playlist, it's how you push to the next clip or delete clips out of your playlist.
So say I'm the second replay operator, I'm building a package to roll the break. First clip is the touchdown pass, second clip is the coach jumping up and down. I want coach jumping up and down to be at half speed. Is there a way, how do I change that in the interface? I saw that you can hit B to change it on the panel. How do I change it on the interface?
Pretty much the same. You would go down to that second clip. S is for speed, and then you can type 50 and you're done. Pretty simple. That's an easy way to do it. You can click edit on that clip, and then you can come down here and click 50. That works too. Or obviously you can go in, press B on your panel. That same menu comes up. So if you can do it now, hit B on the panel, and I'll show you what it does. But it brings up the same menu. And then usually what I'll do is, since my hand's already on the panel, I'll just crank that T-bar, and the T-bar follows you. So crank the T-bar up to, like, say you want to do 75. Just on the T-bar, just flip it up to like 75. There you go.
Oh, nice.
And just do like 75-ish. And then when you're done, you can press enter, which is the far gray button.
Yeah, okay.
And when I'm teaching ops, the difference between 79 and 73 and 75 is negligible.
It takes you like
it takes you like forever to get there, and when you're actually watching it, you cannot tell. So I always tell ops, like, forget the actual number, get close and move on.
Yeah. And then just to clarify for operators, A, B, C, D, most of the menu options have 2 options. That's because you can hit shift to access the second layer of options, right?
Bingo. And that button is in the very top left, and it's gray, and it says shift on it. And just like your keyboard, right? 3 is the number 3, but if you hit shift 3, it's the number sign or the hashtag, right? Same thing on the Dreamcatcher panel. If you press AB or shift AB, you'll see those effects change based on what you're pressing.
Cool.
Sweet. All right. That's mostly it for playlists. I mean, there's, real complicated stuff. You can learn audio swapping and things. That's what the videos are good for as well. If you want to just change the audio in the playlist, we call this an aux clip or an auxiliary clip. You can pick up the clip that has your audio, and then you can paste it down here where it says aux clip. And so what that does is it just replaces the audio of your playlist with whatever song or audio choice that you put in there. So we'll use it for like press conferences. For big broadcasts, we'll use it for like a rollout or something, right? Where I'm not having the actual A1 roll me out. I'm just doing that on my own, building something to music, things like that.
Will that care that we don't have time code going in?
No. Okay. No. Time code will just be based on whatever it thinks it's based on, honestly, right now. So I'm actually curious. I'm going to go back here just for a second because you guys are in Mountain Time, and I want to know if that can be changed or edited. Because this says 6:01, but it's not.
Yeah, it's about to turn 4 o'clock here.
Yeah. So I would think you'd be able to go in here and make that change. And I'll have to ask under the hood how it knows what time zone you're in, because that's kind of a thing as well.
So we'd be about
right now. Go ahead.
We'd be at what, 1600? I think.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. Yeah, might as well just do that now. I'm just gonna check. While we have a second, I'm actually logged in. We'll take a quick break.
Well, this computer shipped to us from New York, so it thinks it's 6 o'clock too. So.
And I'm wondering, if that kind of throws us off, because in the web it'll show us something different. Dot 150.150. Okay, cool. Let's see. Okay, it does not care about the time zone. Okay, good. I like that. Okay, we're back. All right, let's hop back in. That looks better already. If you want to get real, like, finger on the trigger with it, you can go through and set your time. Okay, that is clipping, playlists, import exports. Oh, we can talk about zooming real quick. Zooming is done over here, back in the I'll just kind of go full screen with this back because it's mostly happens all right here. To zoom, you have to have this button turned on here. This little zoom button makes sense. Zooming and that's actually a good clip for it. Zooming in DC1 is simplified, but it does make it really much easier to get it on the air. So to have the zoom turned on, you have to have this little guy done. And then I think you were actually jumping us back and forth on this clip, which is great. The way that works is you can, like, say we want to see their foot, we can go here and then you just zoom in or out. So we're already zoomed in. What I would do is I would set it up. And then you just tap on where you want to go. So first thing, the percentage, the blue one is the default percentage. So if you press and hold, it'll tell you what your default percent is or just wherever it's going to go. But if you have it green, it'll go to that one. And that becomes the main one that's going to go to. So say I want to do 200% and I want to zoom in, you just come over here and you just tap on their foot and that's it. It's very, very simple. The way I like to do it in my broadcast, just because I've seen it go bad so many times where someone's like, all right, cool, zoom in, and then they zoom in and then it's a lot happening all at once. I try to set it up so that we're kind of already really close. So whether I start zoomed in or I zoom in later, up to you guys, but I am almost always, say this is red, saying something along the lines of like effect to red, and I'm rolling it real slow in red. And I'm talking real slow and red. And then when we get to that moment of like, is the ball on the ground? That's usually where I'm zooming. I like to go forward, of course. I like to go forward. I like to go back. And then from there, you can kind of do your show that way. I think it's a cleaner look than trying to catch it right in that moment, because it, again, the moment is past and the director's all mad because you missed it. This is obviously not the cleanest video, but when you guys get live inputs, it'll look a lot better.
Yeah.
But you're already
This was live to ESPN, screen recorded off of ESPN, re-uploaded to YouTube, playing out. So not the cleanest video.
Hey, dude, we'll take moving video. The amount of trainings I try to do where it's like, see these bars, see how they're going backwards. All right, we're zooming in on.
Yeah.
So we'll take it. But yeah, something along these lines where you're kind of already going slow. Rehearse this a bunch of times. That's the other thing I'm really picky about. And then when you're happy with it, you're there, you're zoomed in, you're kind of forward, you're kind of back. Maybe you zoom back out and you roll it. Something along those lines. But it's very, very simple. Whatever input is in your output, you have these buttons here, and you're just clicking on the screen. Touchscreen if it's touchscreen, but just clicking with the mouse if it's not.
No touchscreen. I have PTSD from the touchscreen, so
they have gotten better.
We did a game. We were playing out the show open, and my operator was talking to someone next to him, and he goes, "Oh yeah, look at this!" And he poked the touch bar and skipped halfway through the open. I was like, "No, like you can't do that."
That's a wild story.
Yeah, breaks the illusion a little bit.
Yeah, that will, yeah, true. That will scar you for a long time. Yeah, I don't know if you can come back from that one. All right. Keyboards and mouses and RCPs it is.
Yep.
All right. Okay, I feel pretty good about that, the zooming, and I feel pretty good about playlists. What else you guys got?
I don't think we ever talked about how to move inputs onto outputs.
Sure.
If I'm looking at different camera angles.
No, you're right. I did kind of take that for granted. Let's go. So a few ways you can do it. The best way to do it, the way I would try to encourage our operators to do it, is on the panel, you'll see a very long vertical row here, and there's the bottom one, and that one says take. And if you press take, go for it. With one of the outputs selected, it brings up this menu here, and this menu is your 6 inputs that you have the option to jump between. With this button pressed, now you have a couple other options you can do. When you press this button, your black F keys at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, become the F keys, become those inputs. So if you hit take and then say you hit 3, it would take you to input number 3. You could hit take and then 5, and that takes you to 5, of course. And then you could go on, so on and so forth. Let me get logged back in here. Okay. Now you can hit the take button, and this is probably my favorite way to do it. Hit that take button again, bring up that menu, and then with that menu open, you can use the black jog wheel and you can go left and right, and that will flip you between the outputs themselves. When you land on the output you like or your favorite output, you hit take again, and then that closes the menu. It's kind of my favorite way. Maybe just because I'm left-handed, but what I do is I keep my panel on the right side, my keyboard on the left side, and I'm usually hitting the take button, scrolling between things with my right hand, finding the output that I want, hitting take again, then I rewind and roll my replays, things like that. So that's my favorite way to do it. The one way that everyone always remembers, no matter how many times I try to teach them take F2, take F3, is you can always just grab your input and you can just drag it into your output. And that works too. Whether you're touchscreen or not, you can always take that mouse, grab it, and drag it on it. And that will change inputs and outputs into your output of your system. They'll always go into whichever output's selected. So if I want to change which output is going into, I don't know what you're going to call them. We'll call them red and blue for now. with red selected. So you press A to select red, you hit take button to bring up the menu, flip between them using your jog wheel, and then hit take again. That will change the output in red. B or blue does the same thing. You'll hit B on the panel, take, and then that will affect what's in that second output. I kind of skipped it. You're right. We kind of got tied into some import export stuff first, but just from like the very basics, looking at that green bar. Now it's confusing on the canvas because there's two green outputs, but in front of you, Ben, you'd only see the one green box. That green box would be around the output one. If you hit B, that green box is around output two. That's how you select between those two different outputs. Pressing D selects both, which we covered. The trick though is when D, so go ahead and press D, and I'll show you. I have this in output 2 and this in output 1. If you press take with both outputs selected, they actually dissolve between each other. So just a good thing to know. If it's doing that, it's like, whoops, you just hit it again, select the output you want, and then hit take. We do that because there's many times where you're like, you want to take that back channel and take it forward to your front channel. That happens to us fairly often. But if you're trying to press the take button, and I see new ops fall into the trap a lot where they're like, I'm hitting the button that you said. Yes, but only when one of the outputs is selected. So just red or just blue, just X or just Y, and then hit take, and it brings up that menu.
Okay.
Alt R on the keyboard is your shortcut. It does the exact same thing. Not that I expect someone to do a ton of that, but
cool. Last thing then, I think. Speaking of red, blue, X, Y, orange, navy, whatever. How do I rename my output to match the name we have on the switcher?
Yeah, great question. Inputs too, probably, because at some point you'll want to go through and say that this is camera 1, Michael, camera 3, Brittany, or whoever, right? Settings, I'll let you drive on this one. So you'll go settings, go all the way back, operational, and then down there at the bottom, you'll see inputs and outputs. And then you'll hit, go back one, you'll hit edit output names. There you go. Perfect.
Cool.
Yep. Same thing with them, but you'll hit edit and you'll just go through and knock them out.
Cool.
Cool, dude. Yeah, that's inputs and outputs. While you're in the settings, let me just run you through like anything we haven't covered in there. We've already brought out record channels, so you won't have to worry about starting or stopping records from in here. Operational, honestly, that's kind of the beauty of doing this training is we've kind of now gone through and put all the ones that I like already in there. We're kind of already at a good baseline here. So there's not a ton that you'll have to do, I don't think, show to show in here. With just a standalone system, right? If we had a bunch of Dreamcatchers, of course, you're like, clip these today and do this. But just being a standalone system, for the most part, I think we're pretty much in good shape settings-wise. But any operational little settings, your playlist, default mixes, and all that stuff, it lives here, as you guys will remember from this training. If you go back one, you'll see your engineering. This is mostly for you guys, engineering and full-time. Click on the server there. And then any sort of things in show or pre-show that you guys run into, you can always take a look at in here. So starting at the top, you'll see clear all data. We talked about that. Once a year, maybe blow the whole thing out. If it's acting really funky and you can't get it to record, good place to start once again. Rebooting the server, you guys will reboot more often than most because the truck might be on the move or it might have power, it might not. So reboot is fairly common. So I don't think you guys will have to like reboot before a show if you see an issue, because in theory, you probably only booted up a day or 2 or 3 before anyway. Some places where the system's been there for 3 years, they haven't rebooted in 18 months. You're like, guys. With that said, I kind of treat it like I do my laptop. I don't reboot it just for fun, but if it's having like a weird issue, I'll reboot it. So it's really as simple as that, where it's just like, yeah, I haven't turned it off in like a month and it's acting kind of funky. It won't let me close this program or whatever. great. I reboot my computer. Dreamcatcher the same way. It is just a fancy computer at the end of the day. So reboot is kind of your first, I will say your last line of defense before maybe calling me or someone on our staff. The two below that are really low impact ways to like kind of help restart some processes. The quick restart, I would ignore. I don't use it a lot. It's almost the same as the full restart. And the full restart's more powerful. So I almost always just go with that. Go ahead and click it while we're all just here hanging out and hit perform full restart. If you see something going on with the Dreamcatcher in a show, before a show, during set, this is a pretty low impact way to fix it. I even have the operators do this once in a while. Sometimes they get a little nervous about doing a full reboot, which is fair. But this one's not a big deal. It takes about 20 seconds at the most. It flickers your inputs, flickers your outputs, but it also restarts basically all the processes that are Dreamcatcher related. So the I/O card, recording, all that kind of stuff gets restarted. And I'll say it fixes probably 75% of your issues. So this is probably one of my favorite things to do. If something's acting kind of funky, I'd say it'll probably fix you up. If this doesn't fix it, full reboot usually is helpful. If that doesn't fix it, then an email or a call to myself, and we can usually dial in. We'll dial in via TeamViewer or whatever, just like this. Take a look at what's going on. If the bug feels like it's like in the UI, like for example, someone called me last week and they're like, my arrow keys are working on the clip view, but not in my playlist. I was like, that's so weird. Like it just didn't make sense. There was no good rhyme or reason. What we did was this view restart, and that's Control, Alt, and R on the keyboard. So if you just press Control, Alt, R, you'll see the UI go down. Outputs stay the same, so your outputs are still going out to the wall. Usually not a really big deal. This one takes about 10 seconds, flips you back out to the DC1, go back into your active archive, and you're good. But what that does is fully resets the UI itself. So like if the example of like your phone or your laptop, turning it on, turning it back off, this would be like if your phone was open, you closed it, reopened it. Fixes some stuff unexplainably. This will restart just the UI itself. And then, like I said, beyond that, feel free to give me a call. We have an email as well that's just like the 5 of us that do venues, colleges, and sports and stuff. So any of us can jump in and help as well.
Cool.
I think that's almost all of it. The other engineering items in here, reset DC1 config, you did that. Then when you were setting it up, that just kicks you back out so that you can set new monitors, new I/O. Unless you guys make some big upgrade to 1080p, probably not going to change a lot. You'll probably stick in this config you have for right now.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I talked about custom export formats. Remember when I, going all the way back to the beginning of the training, we were doing compatible standard, ProRes, DNX, XDCAM, all the very standard ones. If you want to build a custom one, a variable one, that's done here, settings, engineering, custom. And you can build off, let's just build one together while we're both here. We'll call this like H.264. And we'll call it 30 megabits per second, which is my like standard. It's like the lowest quality I think looks good at all. Something like that. And you can go H.264 and then preset doesn't matter a ton. You can just say web is fine. Video res, we'll keep it 1080i, which is what you are. Frame rate, we'll do 5994, which is what you are. And then bit rate here, we'll just change that to, I may need your help there, but I would change that to 30. Oh yeah, that should work.
No, that's my keyboard. Guess we're clicking.
All right, deal. And then GOP, I would do 30 as well. That's a lot of clicking. And then audio codec, you can do AAC. And then audio channels, if you have any sort of customized audio, you can do that there. We'll just keep it normal for now. We'll just do, we'll do 6. And then file extension, most people like MP4, 128 for their bit rate. And then you're cooking. And instead of custom one, it'll become H.264 Remix. So there you go. So now when you're inside of this menu and you go to choose something for your profile and you go into that file format here, you'll see your custom one in there somewhere. There you go. So there's your custom H.264. And that lives again just inside of your settings, engineering settings. Perfect. All right. Okay, so you have the two Dreamcatchers, .92, .93. Each Dreamcatcher has two outputs. Are yours vertically stacked, Ben, or are they side to side in your control room there?
Side to side.
Side to side. Okay.
So we have one that's in 2-monitor setup. That'll be for primary operator. And then we have one that's in single monitor setup for building tape lists.
Okay, excellent. We'll start with the two because everything's pretty much the same. Other than that, it'll kind of collapse down. I'll show you some tricks to get back and forth on the single monitor. But from dual monitor, we'll call the left side here the multi-viewer. Looks just like all the multi-viewers in the rest of your rooms, the rest of the trucks. Inputs are across the top. Outputs are down there across the bottom, and these are fixed on the DC one, so we won't really have to make any changes or anything like that. We'll be able to kind of manipulate the inputs as they come in. The outputs are obviously our red and blue, X and Y, whatever you guys decide to call them, and those go back out to the router or the switcher, and then obviously out to the boards or the broadcast. So we'll call this side the multi-viewer. Just for the sake of, since I'm kind of remote here, I'll flip between these two displays, but if you're sitting in front of it, obviously you kind of see them both at the same time. This guy here is called the clip view, and the clip view is just that. It's where all the clips live, playlists, bins, all of our imports and exports happen over here, as well as all of our settings and things like that. So multi-view, when I'm doing a show, my eyes are mostly there when I'm doing live replay, looking at the inputs, looking at the outputs, actually flipping around on my my remote control panel. And then clipping is where I'm building all my packages, imports, exports, all that, like we said. So clip view, this one right here, multi-view is one with all the video windows. We'll call this guy, which is the controller here, we'll call this the RCP or remote control panel. And it's made up of everything that is on hopefully every replay device ever. It's got a T-bar that goes up and down. Top is 100, the bottom is 0. It's got the jog wheel, which rewinds when you go left and fast forwards when you go right, and then all kinds of buttons that we'll go through to kind of get through, making clips, making playlists and stuff. Those that are familiar with EVS will be very familiar with that control panel. It's pretty much the same from the neck down. There's some nice things that you can do with the actual LCD screen. I'll go through those. But for the most part, again, if you're making that transition EVS to Dreamcatcher, close your eyes. Physically, all the buttons are right where you'd kind of expect them to be, and they all do pretty much those same feature sets. The beauty in Dreamcatcher world is that most of this stuff can be done keyboard and mouse as well. So it is nice, especially if you're learning, it'll kind of bring down that learning curve. You can also hover over all this stuff. So Ben, for you, this is a big difference from the new version to what you had before, where it was kind of like memorizing all the shortcuts and things like that. Goal is still to memorize stuff and still to be fast on the keyboard, just like if you're an editor. But now you can go through and you can hover over the playlist, you can hover over your bins and things like that. It'll tell you what those keyboard shortcuts are. So if there's ever any question on your side of like what a feature does, you should be able to hover it. It should tell you exactly what it is. And it should tell you the fastest way to get there as well. For the new ops as they come in, I think the main thing that I would do is kind of point them in this help direction right here. This was like our COVID project. So usually I'll have folks come down here, they'll click on this little help menu. And what it does is it brings up all these little icons here, these little info bubbles. And these info bubbles are all of our training when we're not there. So you can click up here like on the search bar, for example, and it tells you this is the search bar, here's the shortcuts to get to the search bar, and then this is a cool one. It's even got a QR code. You can scan the QR code and it'll take you to a video of how to search. That's a pretty simple one, but there's some other ones if you scroll around and look through some of these other items that are a bit more complex and will help ops as they're getting their feet under them. So during crew calls, as people are coming in, this is a really good place to start with the new system, is just sit down, get a sense of all the vocab, all the keyboard shortcuts and stuff you'll start to want to know, and then encouraging them to kind of go through and make your own cheat sheets and shortcut lists. And it's a production control room, so someone's always going to take a sticker and put it on the remote control panel or something in your brand new pretty little rooms. Okay, perfect. So I would start there. Importing and exporting is where you and I had kind of decided we wanted to get up to speed on. It's where we start every show, outside of just actually doing the replays. Importing can be done with the keyboard shortcut Shift-I for import, or now there's this little job status down here. It'll tell you, same thing, Shift-I, or you can click on the job status, and you'll see any active jobs as well as the dialogues that'll take you there. So if you remember Shift-I before, it's the same, but now you can get to it by clicking on this little guy, and it takes you to this menu. Now, this menu has been pretty drastically overhauled, hopefully for the better.
Yeah, it looks a lot cleaner.
Yeah, thanks, man. I like this a lot better because on the left side, if you had a bunch of Dreamcatchers, huge control rooms, you'd see all the different servers over there. This one across the top, you'll see your favorites. Internal storage, which is just about 1 terabyte you can keep on the systems. For you being in a mobile unit, it's actually kind of fairly useful. You can put slates there, lip sync, valid, like all that kind of stuff you'll use show to show, front ends, sometimes even. It can be really useful. In big production rooms, well, you usually have a network storage device somewhere on campus that you can touch to. But when you're rolling that thing around campus, it's kind of nice to have 1 terabyte of stuff you can at least set down there. The external storage here, well, that would be any flash drives, hard drives, anything like that that you actually plug into the system. On the front of the units, you guys have the 1RU, so there should be 2 USB 3.0s. Set it right down in there. It would show up as an external storage device, and you'd be able to import to it. Don't worry too much about the codecs or anything like that for the Dreamcatchers. It'll do all of its own conversions. So it is running at DNX, and depending on your video standard, whether it's 1080p, 1080i, it'll fluctuate the bitrate to match that. So whatever is needed for DNX, it's fairly fixed standard. But it'll do that conversion from, say, H.264. If you have a ProRes file that you rendered out for Apple, you can convert that, and it'll convert all that stuff to DNX for you guys. So 720p, if you're 1080i, doesn't matter. It'll up or down convert, again, based on that. So pretty flexible. One of my favorite things, probably my favorite thing about the Dreamcatcher. Just because I spent so much time before trying to deliver the exact right file, which is the worst. So we'll come back to how to actually import because it is really simple. Exporting is a bit more involved. So what we'll do is we'll export a couple clips to ourselves, and then we'll come back and import them. So pretty simple. We got to make a clip. You guys probably all already know how to do this. So I'm just going to set an in point over here. In, it's the open bracket on the keyboard if you care, or you hammer that middle button on the panel. Out is my closed bracket. And then how I like to make clips, again, this is just review. I'm sure you guys know this. I like to put down my anchor clip, grab and hold any empty space here. And when you do that, it moves this anchor around. And when you move that anchor around, you can just press the clip button on your panel, which is just above the black jog dial, or I'm on my keyboard, so I'll use the backslash. And it just adds a clip. Nice thing about doing it that way is it adds your clip and then it moves the anchor down one. So then in, out, clip, in, out, clip, and you just kind of keep going throughout your show. You never really have to get caught up on what's where. The older school, like EDS style of doing things, we would say in, out. We'd use our black F keys to drop them down into the same line. Definitely works, can absolutely do that. It's just having to change pages, change banks, and all that kind of stuff. So this is how I like to do it. So with this clip, we'll just call it test. Export for now. On DC1, I'm not as picky about like which angles we clip off because there's only the 6 coming in. Now, say you had 5 of these, they're all sitting in one unit or one production control room, and they were all talking to each other. And every time you made a clip, it actually made 60 clips. We'd have to be more specific on which ones we're actually clipping off. In DC1 world, we have 6 inputs coming in. I'm usually not super opposed to just every single time we make a clip, clipping off all 6. If there's stuff that's just in the way, say it's like an IMI off the switcher program, you don't want to program every time, just once in a while. The way we set that is in the settings down here. And you would go settings, operational, and go down to clips. And then inside of here, you'd usually be able to change it. But it looks like in DC1 world, they just kind of made it always all 6, which is fine with me. So again, I'm not picky. It looks like developers weren't either. So all 6, if you want to make changes to it, A to show up all the different angles, and then you bring things in, or you can, if you want to just delete the clip, it will just put it down into your alternate angles down here. So those are your 6 angles when you make a clip. Say I want to export one. It is X to cue the export. So if I just press X on it, it'll say to export here. Then I can press Shift X, and it'll show me all the different files that are queued up here. If I do it on the outside of a clip, like I'm looking at right now, it'll do anything that's available to me. So right now I named it test export. On the top right, it has that little 5. That little 5 up there is how many angles are associated. So when I hit X, exports all 5, or at least queues up all 5. If, say, I wanted to do another one, and I'm just going to copy and paste it, say export to, and I just wanted a specific angle of it. To do that, A for angles. You can see all the different angles of your clip here. If I just want this specific look, I can just hit X on just this one output angle. So X queues it up, and then when I hit Shift X, it'll take me to this menu here. Again, it looks a lot like the import menu, just kind of opposite. And then this will show me everything I have queued up. So my 5 from original, and then my export to, which was just the one angle that I had set up. From here, we'll go through and we'll start to tell it where we want it to go, what codec we want it to be, all that kind of stuff. So the queue lives at the top up here. And then down here at the bottom of this kind of newer menu, you'll see this little arrow. You can pop it up. When this is popped up, it'll show you anything that is, any export profiles that are selected. If none's selected, then we go through and we create one. So you create it right here, new export profile. We'll just call this one training test. And then it'll ask you what your file format is. These are all the main standards. So ProRes, DNX, XDCAM, the big ones, like the ones that actually ship from factory, from Apple, from Avid, whoever. These are kind of those main broadcast standards found here. So for now, we can just do ProRes LT or proxy, which are quite a bit smaller than regular ProRes. Looks like we're in 1080i, so we can keep the video standard as that. I'll come back in just a second and show you how to make a lower res. Most of the time, especially on the trucks where we're writing to a drive or something, we'll want to move it to like H.264 or like something much smaller than full ProRes. But if you're doing like your slates, your scenics, things that are going to live on your system, and you want the highest res every time when you're playing them back for video boards or broadcasts, you can keep those in kind of a higher standard, which would be like ProRes is a pretty good one. We call it compatible ProRes just because we don't pay Apple enough to use ProRes from them, but it is the same thing. Okay, audio mapping for the most part default is usually just embedded. If you want to get crazy for melt reels or whatever, you can adjust that on output, which is kind of a nice new feature, different from what you might have seen before, Ben. Location. So this is the most important one. 2 most important things. What are you going to write it out as? So what is your video standard and file format? And then secondarily, where is it going to go? So location here. Your options would be external storage if you had that flash drive or hard drive plugged in. For us, we're going to write it to the internal storage, which, like I said before, is just kind of a terabyte on the system, just hanging out. And again, we're going to call this just like training, delete later. And we'll write it into there, accept again. Lots of different stuff down here. New stuff for the most part, but nothing to be super concerned with basic workflows. Sidecar file, unless you have some sort of media asset manager, we're not super concerned with all those tags and things. All phases is if we have high frame rate cameras, which I don't think we're doing day one here on the DC1 anyway. Captions, guard bands, stuff like that. So for the most part, Those are the two things you want to take a look at: file format and then location. Hit accept, and you'll see they'll all kind of start to populate down here as these little blocks. So when the block is selected, it's ready to export, and you can always select multiple blocks. So if you want to write one to internal and one to the hard drive, you can do that. You want to write a low bit rate stream and like a high bit rate melt, you can do both at the same time as well. So create as many of those as you like. And then when one of these guys is selected and you have all of your clips up here queued up to export, you just hit begin and it'll start running through. And it goes pretty fast. So that was it. That was not a very long clip. That was 7 seconds, but I mean, it's still pretty fast. Then importing is the same, but opposite. So instead of hitting X to queue it and Shift X to go into the menu, you'll do the same thing, but you'll press Shift I to go into the import menu. You go find your clips. I just put all mine into an internal storage bin, and they were called training later. And then I'll just bring in this one export too. So when I'm ready, I hit begin import. Same thing, should fly through it. Bingo. 2 ways you can get to now the import bin. I, which is what you were probably doing before, just brings you into that imported bin, or you can wait for everything to import and it'll prompt you to go to that import bin right there. So it's the same idea, same plays, and we'll show you that clip that we just brought in. This is a bin, and we can kind of start talking about bins as well. Bins live on that far right side pane, and they just do different jobs. They collect clips, basically. So anytime you see purple on this screen, on your clip view screen, it just means you're not home, right? If I hit escape a bunch of times, this is kind of my like home base. So like if we're running replay, most of you guys know this, but I always take this thing and I just jam this button a bunch of times. That takes us live. That's our like basics of replay. Doesn't matter what system you're using, we all just have that habit of like hammering that live button to go live. We do the same thing on the keyboard. Escape always kind of takes us back, takes us home, takes us to this gray page here. This page, and I'll just kind of review it one real quickly, is made up of 10 pages. These are the pages here. 10 banks, which you go left to right on, and then 10 slots, right? These 10 slots right here. That's the same exact thing as how EDS was doing it for years and years. Same thing that we do on our switchers, how you have 10 little keys on your keypad. We use pages, banks, and slots effectively to make these 10 little black keys across the top into 100 and then into 1,000 by changing pages and banks. We do the same thing here, but we kind of forget in Dreamcatcher World because it's very fluid. It lays nicely left and right, and you can go up and down. And once you're kind of driving around, at least when I'm building, for the most part, I'm on the keyboard these days. So I'm driving around using my arrow keys almost like I was playing a video game where I'm just kind of, this is my character, and I'm going up, down, left, and right to kind of move that character around. So this is home, but before I was in that imported bin. So bunch of ways to get there. You saw me hit the button from inside the window prompt. I can press I to just jump into the imported bin, which is this guy here. Or if I want to see all my different bins, I can click on the bins down here in the very bottom right down here where it says bins. So the clip view, which is what we're talking about now, this right side of the screen is made up of 2 main components or windows. And one is the main window where all the clips live. That's where the pages, banks, and slots. That's where my searches are. And then on the right side, this is just kind of the right side pane here, and it has a bunch of different states as well. The states are playlists, the job status, which we went over before for imports and exports and what's going on there. And then bins. And then marks. Marks are just little events along the timeline. We won't spend a ton of time on that today. But bins live over here on the right side. There's 3 types of bins. The main type of bin is a system bin. And those are kind of like the analogy I give are similar to like apps on your iPhone. They just come preloaded. They do specific jobs. Some of them you'll love. Some of them like you won't use at all. Kind of, again, like the apps. We all use the Messages app. Some people use the Stocks app. Nobody uses the Health app. Like it's just very specific to certain workflows. And the system bins are similar to that. The conflict bin, I don't think you'll ever use. It's if you were to import a snapshot folder into a place where there already was a clip. It would go there. Great. Good to know. The two I want to focus on for kind of the sake of our time today, the two that start with an I, the imported bin and the inbox. The inbox we won't have to worry about too much in a DC1 scenario because it's for sending clips back and forth to two networked Dreamcatchers, which we just have the two, but they're kind of standalone. So the one we'll focus on the most today is just the imported. And that's every time we import a clip, it'll flood into that imported bin, and it is just the folder, for lack of a better word, that all those clips stay in until you move them. When we import something, it'll have this little orange dot on it. That little orange dot indicates just there's a new clip there. It gives us this notification on the right side over here. And then once we play it out, it'll have that little orange dot will go away, or if we move it as well here. So inside of here, again, purple just means I'm not looking at page banks and slots. I might be searched for something. I might be in a bin. I can hit escape and it'll always take me back. And again, these are my PBS page banks and slots. Other types of bins in here, user bins. The user bins would be the different players in the game. If we continue on with the video game analogy, again, you have DC1 SE, SE for standalone edition. They stand alone. So you'll see operator A on both systems. It just means that you are sitting there doing your thing. You're 6 in, you're 2 out, and all of your clips, which is great. Custom bins. Custom bins are my favorite. They're cool. They work like smart folders. And so you can start to sort things into them based on two things, name or by the tag. The name is the clip's name. We see those. Those are these little white kind of characters across the top. I rename a clip. Most of y'all probably know how to do this. R to rename. I'll call this one Brandon for the sake of our example. We'll call this one Brandon Test. And we'll call this one Brandon Touching. So these are names. R to rename, and then enter when you're done. If you want to rename a bunch of stuff, you can call it Brandon. And then you can hit tab. Tab takes you down. So that's one of my favorite little tricks. Tab just takes you between all your clips real fast. So if you're using that method where you in-out clip, and you just go clip, 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 then you can also go through and name them pretty quickly if you're just kind of jumping through stuff there at quarter break or at the end of a drive or something like that for say, a football game. With those things named, or you see that little blue icon, that's a tag. Tags are like names. They just give additional context to a clip itself. So like we could call this like TD, first down. Some people will just write like melt on it. So just things that you might want to add to that clip to be able to recall it later, search for later. It's just additional metadata is all it is. These custom bins will read those names and read those tags, and it's always kind of functioning like a search engine, whereas in the background, you can come down to those custom bins. If I make one simple, you just hit the little add bin up here at the top, or you in for new when you're already on that side. We already got a couple in there. If I want to make one just really simply called Brandon, and I go into that bin, I would expect my 3 clips with my name in there to be in that bin already. So again, think of it just like kind of a search or a sort if you use the touchdown analogy for actual sports. And so you have a bin that is just renamed to TD. All of those TDs would go in there. Now that's things both named TD and also tagged TD. You can decide which one you want up at the top by the search bar where you're sorting by either name or tag. So those are bins. Bins can be nice when you're doing shows, especially if you kind of already know the storyline of what you're trying to do, or if you already know, like as an operator, what your packages are. You do like a, I don't know, HEB sacks at the game or something like that. Great. You go through every time there's a sack, you drag it to the bin or you tag it with sack or something like that. And then when it comes time to do your rollout, you'll have all those things kind of already organized, which as I'm teaching ops, that's kind of the main thing. It's like, if we can stay organized, building a pack is fairly simple. It's having the stuff when we need it. That's the hard part. So bins will help with that. Again, if you drag something to a bin and it doesn't already meet that criteria, it'll add it. So it'll say, great, you can come into the bin, but you have to have TD as a name or a tag. So it'll add that tag for you, which is kind of nice. So either way to kind of keep those things sorted. So that's the first type of a custom bin. Custom bins can be a good way to sort material or sort your clips as you're going through. What I think is the coolest part about custom bins is, remember those export profiles we built before? You can start to stack some of those properties on top of each other. So we can make it an action bin. So let me make a new one. And we'll just call this one like our export to, I don't know, social media. Something like that. So now this bin has nothing in it. It does nothing. It's just there. It'd be searching for these characters, but none of that is relevant to what we're doing. But what you can do is you can click on this little edit, click on this little settings guy. And what I like to do is tell it more about the bin type. So if you click this, it'll tell you more about what the bin type does. But I'll set it to like an export bin. And then of those profiles that we built before, training tests, I can say sure, come back here and hit save. And then I'll add this little X to it. So now anything that I drag to this bin, I'll have to be fast because it's going to go real quick, but we'll start exporting out to that storage. So then it helps you a lot as like full-time staff where you're around, but on game day, you're kind of running around doing 100 things, I'm sure. Helps you be able to sit down, kind of set up the show, set up the paths of where everything is going. And then when we as operators come in, you can say, okay, great. Like when you're done with the melt reel, just drag it into this bin. Perfect, done. When we're going through stuff throughout the game, social media wants this person wants that. This is where we'll kind of export, I don't know, full game highlights and things like that for creative team, whoever it is, you can kind of set up those bins. So it all ties back together so that we're not having to do this process every time we want to export. X to export, Shift X to come in here, Spark, all that stuff, and then back into replay. It gets a little bit jarring. The menus are cleaner for sure, but to have to jump between 6 things is not my favorite. So if you can set up some of that kind of stuff, it makes it easy for us as ops just to be like, cool. I don't have to take my eyes off of building packages, replays, all that kind of stuff. It just goes, okay, great. Everything at the end of the day that I tagged with melt, real simple. Pick it up and drag it in there. There it goes.
Yeah.
So
that's way easier.
Yeah, awesome, dude. So yeah, that's a good way to stack kind of both the import profiles as well as bins. Because you probably will only use a few of these types of bins, you might favorite the ones that you want. A couple ways to do it. You can pick it up and drag it into the favorites, which is kind of a cool way to do it. You can click it, hit F for favorite, click on this little guy, and then just turn the star on or off. With those on and off, it kind of just eliminates the noise. In DC1 world, again, you don't have a bunch of different users you need to talk to or anything. You don't need almost any of those other system bins. So really what you can do is kind of go over to your imported, and then any of those custom bins that you've made. And then when you flip on those favorites, it'll just sort out the ones that you're looking at. So one of the things that I try to do is I'm sitting down to do my show is just like get rid of as much clutter as I can so that I can just kind of, when the time comes to like go to a certain thing, the thing is in front of me as best I can. All right, cool. That's bins. That's importing, exporting.